Alright, this video is from Sophie. Sophie wrote, I have a question I can't shake on this mental hunger. How can one know that wanting to eat, stuffing your face when physically full, eating until you're in pain isn't an attempt to block feelings or implies maybe you're not committed to or going consciously into recovery, but you're trying not to restrict? Mental hunger is the same behaviours as binge eating disorder. I've been ill for years up and down. Past recovery attempts have simply seen me swing the other way into binge eating disorder / bulimia and never sort my head out. Am I safer following a meal plan this time or over following extreme or mental hunger? Particularly concerned with mental hunger as I know I feel it, but it's not just continuing to use and abuse food. I do have extreme mental and physical hunger, but I purge because, to be honest, I'm not convinced I'm using food as a way to cope. I'm not convinced I'm not using food as a way to cope, just not through restriction. I'm 36 and I've been ill since I was 16. The video you did on mental hunger doesn't talk through this morphing into another disorder being a thing that could happen for some, perhaps in the absence of structure. And I wondered if you've ever gone through it or addressed it. I'd love to know why your thoughts on so many people with anorexia develop binge eating disorder or bulimia, or whether this is resistance to extreme mental hunger or just another way of coping, if not restricting, trying to control emotions. All right, well, if you want to talk about using food to control emotions, I'm definitely not the person. It's just not something that if your body says you're hungry, you probably you need food. Look, so, and this is just my opinion. The reason that I think that a lot of people with anorexia develop binge eating disorder and bulimia is because they're still restricting. So, well, bulimia, it's really obvious. When we don't eat enough food, the mechanism that happens, very biological and very normal, is that our bodies want to binge. That's appropriate. You didn't eat enough food. So at there comes a point when your body's like, fuck you, I'm taking it. And you eat uncontrollably. And then it's a binge. And that's actually fine. That's actually, when you binge, you're actually listening to your body. I mean, you don't really have much choice, but your body's taken over and is forcing you and it's just saying, shut the fuck up for a moment, I need to eat some food. And it does that. But then what happens is you freak out about it and you purge. And as soon as you purge, you just took all that food out of your body again. So then your body goes, fuck you. And it binges again. And that's bulimia. That's how that cycle develops. It becomes a behavioral cycle. The problem is not the binging. The problem is the purging and the restriction. And then bulimia is typically thought about as kind of, vomiting. But you can purge via exercise. And many of us purge via restriction. So, and that is what I see binge eating disorder as the most of the time. And remember, people have this idea that restriction means that you have to be extremely restricting food. You don't. You can be eating food, you can be eating your meals, you can be eating your meal plan, but that can still be restriction if your body wanted more. And that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what weight you're at when that happens. If your body wants more food and you didn't give it more food, then it can still go into that, fuck you, I'm taking it mode, because you restricted. And that's your body trying to protect itself from you restricting. And it doesn't matter what weight you are. You don't have to be underweight to have a restrictive eating disorder. In fact, you could be any weight to have a restrictive eating disorder. Restriction is restriction, and restriction can be small, but guess what? Your body knows if you did it. You can kid your dietitian or your mom or your partner. You can be like, yeah, I'm not restricting. Your body knows. And at some point, your body's going to get fucking fed up with you doing that. And it's going to go, fuck you, I'm going to make you eat a shit ton of food. That's what you get for restricting. And that can happen, as I'm going to say 1,000 million times, that can happen at any weight. And a lot of the time, I see the exact same behaviors in people in larger bodies as what I was doing when I had anorexia. But they don't have anorexia, they have binge eating disorder because, well, first of all, they're restricting food, but it's not counted because they're in a larger body. So basically their dietitian or their doctor or whomever else thinks that they should be living on air. And if they're eating a couple of meals a day, then that's, even if they're just eating really small meals a day, then they're not restricting. However, when I was just eating small meals a day and I was really underweight when I was restricting, but that's because I was skinny. And so that was the only difference actually. In fact, probably even when I was restricting, And because I was skinny, I was still eating more than a lot of people that I've known that have been told that they have binge eating disorder. And they've been eating way less than I was eating when I had anorexia. But because of what they look like, they're not considered to have anorexia. And the behaviors can all be the same. It's just all restrictive stuff. Compulsive exercise can be there, purging can be there, all the behaviors that can be there. But just based on their body size, it's like, nope, you don't have anorexia, despite the fact that you're doing everything the same as a person with anorexia would do, and probably eating less. You don't have anorexia, you have binge eating disorder because your body's not skinny enough. I mean, it's just so fucking stupid. But it's prevalent, and it's so prevalent that a lot of people with binge eating disorder themselves don't think that they're restricting, because the culture, and for years, has been telling them that for you, a normal, healthy diet should be basically lettuce and maybe a bit of cucumber if you're lucky. So they're like, no, I don't restrict. I eat. And it's like, well, what do you eat? And they're basically on a diet the whole time, eating rice crackers and wondering why their bodies binge. And it's considered, they just don't have willpower. When basically what's happening is they're in a binge restrict cycle. It's just the restriction is accepted. The restriction is culturally normal because of the size of their body. And they're doing exactly what I was doing. But just because I was skinny, then it was noticed in me. And everybody said like, well, why are you, everybody noticed that I was restricting just because I was skinny. When the truth was, and I can look back on it and now see, a lot of the time, even when I was heavily restricting, I was still eating more than many people that I've worked with that apparently have binge eating disorder and don't have anorexia. So, I'm kind of passionate about that one because it's just fatism and it's fucked up and I'm sick of it. Hope that helps. I'm just going to end it there. I could go on about this forever, especially in this heat without air conditioning, because I'm in a bad mood.